Cheers.
Cheers. It is literally, what time is it? It is almost 1 a.m. It is 12:40 a.m. We are working hard. TBH, we're actually about to go on a trip to New York. So, much needed break.
Yeah.
Today's episode, we're talking about work relationships, navigating the work environment.
Yeah.
And it's really important, I think, for like the everyday person, because sometimes influencers aren't really like relatable, and like if they don't have a day job.
So true.
Yeah,
that is so true. I didn't realize, but I do like watching those like day in the life of a corporate girly or something, because I'm just like curious what their life is kind of like, because I'm like, I do not travel the world for my job.
Yeah,
I wish.
Yeah.
But I don't. So that's like actually a really good point.
Yeah. And even those, like, I love looking at those for like inspiration or to make me feel better, but they don't really talk about like the difficulties of like work.
That's so true. I feel like no one talks about working anymore, at least online.
Nobody wants to work.
Because what is everyone doing?
They're all making videos. They can live the easy life.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
So do you go into the office?
Yes. I go into the office 3 times a week. So it's, a little more than 50-50 hybrid schedule. What about you?
So I work remote option, but I have the option to go into the office. So I do once in a while. In my previous position, I was going in like twice a week.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is it like going to like the office for you, and how do you kind of like, do you like it? Do you not like it?
Yeah. Honestly, in the beginning during quarantine, I was like, oh my God, like remote is so nice, you know, like it gives me flexibility. And I think that's still true. But I realized as I kind of am like taking my career like more seriously, like being in the office is really important for relationships. Like you need to have a relationship with your coworkers, your boss, and just like depending on your like company structure, like interdepartment relationships are super important too. Like getting lunch with people, like you can't do that remotely. And it sounds like kind of boomerish for me to say that, but it's also like the reality of the situation. Like most of us go to work every day, and if you want like to do that traditional like ladder climbing or like promotional like, you know, do well in your career and your job, like relationships are super important. So big topic for today.
Okay.
But
when I was going in, I thought it was super nice to have like friendships, honestly. So I had one, like she's actually like one of my best friends, and I thought like it was super important going to the office because like I looked forward to seeing her all the time, like our lunches and everything. So personally for me, I think like even for just like my mental sanity, you know, I really liked it. Like I do agree with like obviously relationship making, like it is important. But I think also like people who are probably like maybe like fully remote, they have their own ways too.
Yeah, do you? Because you are fully remote.
Yeah.
So like you, even though you were fully remote, you were still able to like cultivate a relationship with your coworkers. So like, how did you do that?
So I feel like my managers and everything, they were super good on like communication, and it was like, yes, we're remote, but like we have like check-ins, and it's just like, I feel like it wasn't like surface level. Like we actually got to like really get to know each other. So I think that was really nice. When I was going to the office though, my friend was like not in my team.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
How did you meet her?
She was like the office butterfly. Like, you know, like literally she introduces herself to everyone. And I think that's like, I learned a lot about like what I lack through other people, right? And I was just like, okay, like she is so outgoing and sociable and welcoming. And like, I think in the workplace, like that's really important to kind of like distinct and like identify yourself. Right? Like,
I agree. Do you think that she's like you said the social butterfly in the office? Like you think a lot of people like know her and like, she's
the
friendly.
whole office knows her. And like she's just super good at chatting and like which I'm like hi, how are you? But like she's really good at talking.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, do you ever think, you know the show The Office?
Yeah.
Do you ever like think of yourself as like if this
as one of the characters?
Yeah, if this is like The Office, like who am I? You know what I mean?
No, I never thought
or like what character would I be?
That is such a good question. What character are you?
I think I'm kind of more of just like the quieter one that like
Pam? The receptionist?
I
She's
guess
kind of quiet and sweet. I don't see you as Pam though.
But I think I could also be a Kelly. Kelly makes me laugh and
she's so
make
funny.
myself laugh. But I don't think I'm a Kelly in The Office.
Yeah. I see like the humor.
Yeah,
I see
right?
it. Yeah, I totally see it.
Yeah, but I think I'm more of a Pam in The Office, to be honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are.
Right?
Yeah, they have to like mute their personalities.
Yeah, but like, do you think it's like important to let your personality like shine in the workplace? Because I think it is.
I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's hard to, but it's really important because like you don't want to be seen as like another worker bee that's like not distinctive. Just like you kind of have to like let yourself be known. Like it's hard to when you're kind of like starting at the bottom rung, but like one of the ways is like your personality. If like you're a likable person, like it feels like good energy attracts like good things. Yeah. And that's like in any aspect of your life, including the workplace. So yeah.
How is it like in your workplace? Like how does your personality kind of like shine through?
Yeah, I think I'm the same way as you, especially when I kind of first started like my corporate career. I was like really shy and I never spoke up about stuff. But I think as I'm like navigating like my corporate life, I've kind of just like realized, well, first, what's really important is to like make sure that your personality matches the work culture. And like, I'm literally not just saying that. Like, when you interview for a job, I would highly recommend that you interview your manager and interview your company. Like, you want to make sure your personality aligns with them. If you're interviewing with like your potential manager and you're like, oh, I don't see my personality clicking with this person, like it's highly likely your personality doesn't match with their culture. You know? So like, I really realized like, in my interview, this is a personal like experience in my interviews. When I clicked with the person, which I knew was going to be my manager, the likelihood of the manager's personality being like kind of a reflection of the company's culture is like likely, and I've kind of seen that. Yeah. So I would say make sure because like part of being like likable in the company, which is important for a relationship, is making sure that your personality connects with their culture. So that kind of like intertwines. So that just kind of makes it like a natural like progression. Like if you already feel like, oh, like I am connecting with my manager and like my coworkers, it's like kind of easier for your personality to like shine through. Okay. Yeah. So like make friends.
Like when you're in an interview, like when you say like interview your manager, like what kind of questions or like what kind of gives you an idea of like how they are?
So for me, what's really important in a manager is transparency, because transparency means to me like a non-toxic working environment. And I'm a pretty like straightforward kind of person, so I can't really stand like passive aggressive behavior generally, like in friends, but also especially the workplace.
This is exactly also what you said about dating, like in our first episode. Yeah, but I mean that makes total sense. Like you don't want a passive aggressive boss.
No. Yeah, and like I think that breeds toxic.
So in an interview, how do you kind of like go about that? You know what I mean? To like, because like everyone probably thinks like they're green flags, they're the best, but like how do you kind of like figure it out?
So a lot of the times in interviews, there's like multiple tiers. So I start with HR, right? How transparent is HR? How willing are they to like give you information about like the job biggest thing, salary transparency. Salary transparency is like a huge thing because everyone's going to work to make money.
Yeah.
Right? That's the number one goal. So like if you're talking to HR and you're interviewing HR and they're not willing to give you salary transparency, I'm kind of like, okay, so that's the culture of your office because they're trained to say things a certain way.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
I'm learning a lot because like I'm like 3 years into like my corporate life, so like I feel like I'm still learning the process on like how to behave and stuff.
Yeah.
So okay, so salary transparency is like the first step. And then
this is my experience. I'm not an HR person, so I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but based on like the different interviews that I've had good experience with people who, like, for example, HR give you straight up salary transparency. Because then if that also means like I'm a happy worker. I know exactly what is the budget. I know exactly what I'm getting in proportion to the budget that they have and like my experience. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I'm middle tier of their budget. I'm top tier of their budget. And I know my experience fits this. I can make that like judgment myself and be happy with what I'm getting in the workplace.
Interesting.
So I'll start with HR, and then for my manager or for your manager, I would say like asking about maybe the trajectory of the company, like any big projects. I will say that it's kind of hard to like know if your manager is being transparent because like it's not like salary where you can just ask a straightforward question and be like, give me a direct answer. It's like, how do you... So it's a little more difficult with your manager, but you can also tell just in terms of like personality if a little bit of intuition in that aspect.
Yeah, that's really important because I feel like obviously your manager is so important, right?
Yeah, for sure. Make or break.
Yeah, and I've had, managers where I feel like, they could be one way, but like I feel like working, anything could be like dating, right? Like in the beginning things could be good, and then you see the true colors, or like during stressful times how they act. So I think it's kind of hard because you learn, just like when you're dating and like you learn about yourself throughout the process. I feel like that's how like working has been like for me, where it's like, there are good periods, but like if there's like an extremely stressful time or like something comes up, like how we handle it kind of really like it shows everyone how we are.
Oh yeah. So true. That's a really good point. Like stressful situations and like bad situations in any aspect of your life is like really stressful, but it's almost feels like in a work environment it's like extra stressful, probably because it literally has to do with you feeding yourself. like
your survival.
Fired or not fired.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why. But that's like a really difficult thing to navigate in the workplace, like challenges. Have you had any challenges in your career that you've learned something from?
I really want to talk about this because I learned about myself, but for next time, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But there was like a project, that the whole team was working on. And long story short, I just felt like I was kind of bamboozled a bit. Like I was really proud of myself and I thought I did like a really great job. And I know I did, like other people saw that, but I was kind of not given like the recognition I should have had.
Yeah.
And
that's so hard.
It was like, I don't know what I have with like authority, but like I feel like with teachers and professors, I always had this like boundary where I'm like, you're my teacher. I can't really like step the line. Like I don't know if it's like an Asian thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like
literally
respect.
Thinking that. Yeah.
Because like,
that's so true.
Yeah, like growing up in middle and high school, I always had that boundary. Professors, like, like I feel like they wanted to be kind of like friendly and everything, but I would always have that line for some reason.
Me too.
Same with my job. I am always like, you're my boss, you're higher than me, like I need to like talk to you in a way where like it's like you're the respected one. But like I'm just realizing low-key how it's like a dog-eat-dog world. Like I don't know, I feel like I was just like this naive little girl like coming into the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of people tell me like I'm a bit too nice, like I just kind of take it.
Yeah.
And I think when so many people, when I told them the story, were like, Ruby, you're being like so like fucked over, you know? I kind of was like, oh, like, and it was a little bit too late at that point.
Right.
But I find myself in these situations where it's like I just kind of believe what they tell me, but then I'm like low-key being not gaslit, but like, you know, like I just...
What do you mean? Like, how were you gaslit in that situation?
I guess it was just like, you know, like kind of how they do like a sandwich where you're doing so well, like, you know, like that type of thing. And I just am like, okay.
They just tell you verbally, but like they don't like recognize you with compensation or promotion, like that kind of situation.
In that situation that I was in, I kind of was like, okay, whatever, until like somebody came up to me and was like, how do you feel, Ruby? Like, and I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, I would be so mad if I were you. And then I was like, you know, and like another person came up and like, I don't know, in my head, I was just like,
I see.
Oh, okay, I think I definitely need to work on this to like stand up for myself more instead of just being like, oh, this is what my boss said, so I should believe it. Like, even like salary negotiations, I've never done that actually. So like things like that, I'm still kind of learning, I feel. So have you ever had any experience like kind of in the workplace where you have to like, I don't know,
navigate? Yeah, I mean, I was in the same boat as you in terms of like the first job salary negotiation is always hard, and I think that's like kind of you learn with experience. I guess a challenging situation that's like different from what you're talking about. I've been lucky enough to go work in places with like good managers and good culture, which I think is actually very hard and like very rare that I've had that experience in all the places that I've worked. But in the past, I have had maybe difficulties like navigating like coworker relationships.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and if I'm thinking of like a time in the past that happened. It was a stressful situation because there was a misunderstanding, basically, and we were remote, like the day that this misunderstanding happened. So I think that kind of like put a wrench in the situation as well, because it's hard when you don't know each other on a personal level to talk over Teams. Things can seem like one way over text. You don't know how things read, and I think the right thing to do would have been maybe like give a call.
So did you choose to do it over Teams or the other person?
No, the other person Teams'd me after seeing an email, and there was a like me and the coworker were on different pages, and it was a difficult situation for me because because of the misunderstanding, the coworker was not very happy. So it kind of, I felt blindsided basically. So I felt blindsided, and words were exchanged.
Were you silenced or were you silent?
So I was very professional. So words were exchanged one way.
So that person
basically was coming at me. And that's why I felt blindsided.
So you were silenced.
I cannot be silenced.
but you were silent.
I wasn't silent. So I think they wanted me to be silent because they were upset. And I try to be very accommodating in the beginning and was like, okay, you know, like no problem, I can do this, you know, like.
Were they just like kind of like being like, hey, here's a heads up of how I've been feeling, or was it like
it was straight
like
just like came at me?
Interesting.
And I don't think that's very common. At least it was my first time experiencing that, but it's possible that a lot of people experience like difficult situations where their coworker or like might be upset at them about something, you know, like I'm sure that happens in the workplace. And this particular coworker was very expressive about it.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was kind of taken aback, and it was my first time handling something like that. So I was kind of like, I don't know really what to do.
Yeah.
But the good thing was that like I was able to kind of like take time to myself to kind of like think about it, to figure out like what to do until I see this person next. And I was like, I need to make sure, first of all, because it was over text, that my intention of goodwill came across, because at the beginning of the conversation, I was very much like, oh, like if this is a problem, like I have no problem like going to an alternate like solution.
Yeah.
And yet the coworker was still upset, which made me confused. Like what is going on? Like, are we not on the same page?
It sounds like almost like the coworker just wanted to be like upset instead of finding a solution.
I do think that was part of it.
Yeah.
Which you can't really control. There's a lot of different people in the workplace, and some of them you might not connect with for different reasons, or might not agree with their personality or reactions for different reasons.
Yeah.
And this was one of them. But the only thing you can really do is control your own actions. So rather than being reactive to this person, you really need to stay professional, especially when it's over text. Like, when that's like evidence.
Yeah. You know, that's actually something super important, like so common sense, but processing.
Yes.
I feel like I have like a very reactive personality. So when things happen, I'm super reactive, but kind of like, again, with the authority thing, like I'm so respectful and everything that I'm just like, oh yeah, like I put a smile when I'm like, actually, I don't feel this way. So I think processing is such a huge thing, where I feel like everyone should take time, no matter what it is, honestly, not even just work things, like take time to really sit on how you feel about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah, I am such a reactive person that I think I need to implement like just processing, because I feel like there have been so many times where I guess I just kind of like reacted, and then I like think about it, and I'm just like, you know, when you're in the shower and you're like, I wish I said this, I wish I didn't do this, or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's just like too late, like the train's already moved on. Like,
that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice, because that's exactly what I did actually. I had to process it, because in the moment I was upset myself, even though I didn't express it that way over text. And that's something that the coworker really should have done, should have taken time to process before just like coming at me. But essentially my solution was like getting coffee with the person and coming at them with goodwill, being like, oh, okay, so this was what my intention was. I have no problem helping you with this, and I hope you like understood that from me. And if you didn't, like, I just wanted to make sure that that came across in the text, because it may not have. And you know, that may have been that misunderstanding. What ended up happening was that it wasn't like all like dream rainbows and whatever butterflies, because I think the coworker needs to kind of work on their professional ness. Because they were still very upset in that conversation, and it was obvious they weren't trying to like mend a relationship. And it's kind of like, this person doesn't think about consequences or their relationship with their coworkers, which is really important. And to be honest, you think that this activity, this situation is not going to be known by our manager? No, it will be. Either because like both of us or one of us tells them, and if you have interviewed correctly and are in a culture where you feel that you fit in and you are in a good relationship with your manager, hopefully your manager is there to back you up.
Yeah.
So I would just say that it ended well for me.
No, I think you took it, like, you know how we said about like personality shining? I feel like his personality maybe shined a little bit too much in that.
It wasn't
instance.
shining. It was,
or whatever it was.
It was like on fire. Like, a little too much.
There was like no
professionalism.
Yeah. That's kind of insane.
Yeah.
But like I feel like you managed it. Like the fact you killed that person with kindness.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Being kind, professional, and like actually providing a solution is super important. Okay, we need to like leave actually.
Oh, okay.
We need to leave like right now.
Okay.
So part 2, bye.
Bye.